Today's news highlights. Date April 10, 2025. News highlights: Trump announced tariffs of up to 104% on China, and the CCP fought back by raising tariffs to 84% and depreciating the yuan to reduce the shock. Relations between the two sides have deteriorated, and experts believe that the CCP has fewer cards, and the people may bear the cost. Trump stressed that countries with a high medium content will be taxed heavily. News highlights: the tariff war between China and the United States is heating up, with Trump announcing a 90-day increase in tariffs on Chinese goods to 125% and a 90-day suspension of tariffs on other countries that have not retaliated against them, falling to 10%. China, for its part, raised tariffs on U.S. goods from 34% to 84%. The two sides imposed tariffs on each other, and a trade war could break out in full swing. News highlights: the U.S.-based Shenyun Performing Arts Troupe was bombed during a performance in Taiwan, and police traced the letters to the Hawaii Eye Research Institute in Xi'an, China. Shenyun has long exposed the CCP's persecution of Falun Gong, which has become a target of the CCP's repression, and has repeatedly threatened performances around the world, but it has still received enthusiastic support and praise from audiences everywhere. News highlights: Trump's tariffs hit Taiwan stocks. 0050 recently launched a stock split case. It is expected that 1 split 5, the actual multiple will be determined by the net value on April 24, and the vote will end on April 21. After the split, the stock price will be lowered and the investment threshold will be lowered, attracting petty bourgeoisie to participate, but the total amount of dividends will remain unchanged, and investors still need to pay attention to the risk of market fluctuations. News highlights: the 2025 tax season is underway. The Ministry of Finance has raised the tax exemption amount and a number of deductions to reduce the burden. The declaration time is from 5/1 to 6 halves. 4 key points: the tax bracket has been raised, the basic living expenses have been increased to 210,000 yuan, the rental expenses have been included as special deductions, and the preschool deduction for young children has been relaxed to 6 years old and the amount has been increased. Make good use of the new system to file your taxes easily and save more. News highlights: Trump's tariffs affect Taiwan stocks, and 0050 plans to lower the investment threshold of 1 split 5, vote to 4/21, and determine the actual multiple according to the net value of 4/24. Stock splits attract petty bourgeoisie, but the total amount of dividends remains unchanged, so you should pay attention to the risk of market volatility. News highlights: as the U.S.-China trade war heats up, the U.S. raises tariffs on Chinese goods to 84%, and China announces that it will impose the same tariff on U.S. goods from April 10, criticizing the U.S. for violating the multilateral trading system and infringing on China's rights and interests. News highlights: Taiwan stocks fell nearly 4,000 points in a week, and investors rushed to pay back financing, and a wave of policy terminations emerged, and many life insurance companies terminated contracts and policy borrowings soared. Despite the entry of the Goan Fund, Taiwan stocks still fell below 10,000 and entered a bear market, and the wave of lockup intensified the market panic. News highlights: affected by the tariff war between the United States and China, Taiwan stocks fell by 3,906 points this week, and many companies have launched treasury stock plans in order to save their stock prices and respond to policies. 10 companies, including Lite-On and XINSI, announced yesterday that they would implement treasury shares, with a total amount of 34.6 billion yuan. Lite-On plans to repurchase 130,000 shares, Sansheng 18,000 shares, Nangang 13,000 shares, etc. The stock exchange called on companies to launch treasury share plans based on their financial position and shareholder value to stabilize market confidence. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff policy has hit the world, and Taiwan's labor market is facing challenges. The Ministry of Labor has contacted the affected industries and planned a $15 billion employment support package to help workers cope with the shock. The Ministry of Labor will closely monitor the employment situation of enterprises, avoid abusing the use of reduced work breaks to apply for subsidies, and strive to reduce the impact of unemployment or limited employment opportunities. News highlights: the collapse of Taiwan stocks has drawn market attention to the potential risk of high dividend ETFs. Due to the U.S. tariff war and the uncertain economic outlook, corporate earnings have declined, leading to a reduction in ETF distributions. The dividends of some high dividend ETFs have been affected by the decline in the stock market, and the capital gains are partially negative. Nonetheless, experts point out that dividend income is expected to recover as corporate annual reports are released and the ex-dividend season approaches, supporting high dividend ETFs. News highlights: the implementation of the reciprocal tariff policy by the United States has had an impact on Taiwan's economy, and the central bank predicts that it may weaken Taiwan's economic growth by 0.4 to 1.1 percentage points and indirectly affect the housing market. Although the impact on prices will be limited, the depreciation of the NTD will slightly push up the cost of imports, offsetting the positive effect of the decline in oil prices. The PBOC will continue to monitor U.S. policy developments and adjust economic forecasts. News highlights: Zhu Wenyu, chairman of the board of directors, said that the purpose of the concession was to encourage other builders to follow suit and hope to attract buyers through reasonable prices. The Riverside Daijing case launched by Aishanlin in Bangqiao district changed the originally scheduled price of 1 million to a 7-character prefix to attract customers to buy. Zhu Wenyu emphasized that this wave of housing market downturn is a good time to start, and said that in the future, each case will choose a profit concession strategy, especially optimistic about the rigid demand of Shuangbei and Hsinchu. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he would suspend tariffs for 90 days and significantly reduce reciprocal tariffs to 10% for countries that have not retaliated against the United States, effective immediately. The move sent a strong rebound in U.S. stocks, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average surging more than 2,000 points and international oil prices rising more than 2%. At the same time, Trump raised tariffs on China to 125% and stressed that China did not respect the world market. This policy change reflects the outcome of U.S. trade negotiations with more than 75 countries. News highlights Cai Cand was recently directly hit when driving because he looked at his mobile phone and did not pay attention to the traffic, resulting in not starting immediately and not turning on the turn signal, causing the rear vehicle to honk the horn to force the car, exposing the driving behavior of the 3 treasures on the road. Despite this, the agent explained that Cai Cand usually pays attention to the traffic rules, but this time he just didn't notice it. Cai Shanda also revealed that she plans to host channels related to actors and publish books, hoping to share her experience as an actor and outlook on life. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump abruptly announced a 90-day moratorium on global reciprocal tariffs that had come into effect, but would raise tariffs on China to 125%. The move is intended to reward countries that have not retaliated and buy time to negotiate a trade deal. Trump's decision sent U.S. stocks to a swift rally, with the S&P 500 soaring more than 7% at one point. While this policy U-turn has cut taxes to 10% for most countries, China has not yet enjoyed this relief, leaving U.S. companies at risk. News highlights billiards player Zhang Hengzhe and Ai Fukuhara divorced in 2021, and Zhang Hengzhe lost 7 million yuan to sell Kaohsiung's love nest in order to break off the past. Last year, he quickly bought a new home and completed the decoration, and recently posted his new home on social platforms. The home is spacious and warm, and the design has been blessed by netizens and artists, saying that the new home allows children to relax and enjoy family time. Zhang Hengzhe also shared his satisfaction with his new home and looked forward to having dinner with friends. News highlights actress Bai Xinru, announced her divorce from her husband in the early morning of today, 10th, in the community, revealing that she had been divorced by her husband 4 times in 4 years of marriage, and finally chose to end the marriage after 2 mediations. She said that if she didn't disconnect in time, the future would only be worse, and now she feels super free and happy, and advised people who have similar experiences to live for themselves and let go of relationships that no longer bring happiness. She stressed that maintaining an unhappy marriage is not beneficial to her children or herself, and advocated early separation to find a happy life. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on global reciprocal tariffs, down to 10% for most countries, but raised to 125% for China. The move spurred a sharp rally in U.S. stocks, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average soaring 3,000 points and the S&P 500 and Nasdaq posting their biggest one-day gains in history. Taiwan stocks also rose sharply due to the news, soaring more than 1,600 points at the opening, and all TSMC and other weighted stocks rose to the limit. Trump said the move was to strike better trade deals with countries, but remained tough on China. News highlights actress Lin Meijin and Sun Xing have broken up for more than 20 years, and announced on the 8th that they had officially signed the divorce, emphasizing that the man's behavior in the future has nothing to do with their mother and son. The two separated and reunited many times and got back together at the end of last year, but Lin Meijin found that Sun Xing had not broken up with his wealthy businessman girlfriend Swallow at all, and finally decided to let go completely and cut off the marriage relationship. She said that this time she no longer compromised and was wronged, and chose to walk out of the past. News highlights in next year's World Baseball Classic, the major leagues will announce the group list, and Taiwan will be in the same group as Australia, Japan, the Czech Republic and South Korea, and will be held at the Tokyo Dome. This means that Taiwan has a chance to face the world's top player Shohei Ohtani for the first dream matchup. In addition, the Taiwan-Japan showdown is also highly anticipated, as Taiwan successfully ended Japan's winning streak last year. The other groupings include Puerto Rico in Group A, the United States in Group B, and Miami in Group D. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on tariffs on 75 countries, during which only 10% reciprocal tariffs will be imposed, and 125% tariffs will be imposed on China in response to China's retaliatory tariffs. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent said countries that did not retaliate would be rewarded, and a tough stance on China could include withdrawing Chinese companies from listing on the U.S. stock exchange. He called on China to return to the negotiating table and stressed Trump's firm position. The move marks a further escalation of the US-China trade war. News highlights Trump's tariff policy in the United States has exacerbated the global economic recession, and the tourism industry has been hit hard, especially inbound tourism. Taiwan's tourism industry has not recovered quickly, with only 7.5 million arrivals expected in 2024, well below the expected 10 million. A number of travel agencies have announced their closures, and Shengon Travel will also close operations at the end of April. Experts pointed out that there is a lack of tourism highlights that attract international attention, and cross-strait relations have not been opened. Taiwan's tourism market is highly competitive, and the recovery progress lags behind other countries. News highlights colorectal cancer usually has no obvious symptoms in the early stage, but if there is a change in bowel habits or abdominal pain, it may be in the second stage. Gastrointestinal and hepatobiliary physician Ye Bingwei shared a case of a female patient in her 60s, although she did not have typical symptoms, but because of her plump body, pale skin, and positive fecal occult blood test, the doctor intuitively asked her to undergo an examination in advance, and the result was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Experts remind that people who are positive for fecal occult blood should have colonoscopy as soon as possible, and the longer the delay, the higher the risk of cancer. News highlights Sammo Hung, a 73-year-old Hong Kong star, once relied on a wheelchair for knee surgery and diabetes, and the prevalence of diabetes in Taiwan reached 10.6%. Li Tengyu, an obesity specialist, shared that a 22-year-old man weighed as much as 95 kilograms due to improper diet, and glycosylated hemoglobin had reached 6.4% and entered pre-diabetes. He emphasized that diet control and exercise can help with diabetes, especially low-intensity aerobic exercise, such as ultra-jogging, 3 to 4 times a week for 30 minutes each time, which can help improve symptoms and lower blood sugar. Blood sugar should be checked before and after exercise to avoid being too low or too high. News highlights the 6th World Baseball Classic 2026 has been announced, and Taiwan has been placed in Group C and will play against Australia, Japan, the Czech Republic and South Korea. The tournament will kick off on March 5, 2026 at Tokyo Dome, with Taiwan opening against Australia, followed by back-to-back battles against Japan, the Czech Republic and South Korea. The top 2 teams from each group advance to the round of 8, with the winner being decided in Miami on March 18. News highlights Wang Zhongping recently revealed that he is keen on buying land and development, and plans to build a 700 square meter camping park in the Cape of Good Hope in Hulong, Mili, and has invested tens of millions of yuan. He has been in love with land development since 20 years ago, working with his family to plan farmhouses, orchards, and other projects, and personally participating in the land preparation process. He sold the mansion in Yimei Township, Hsinchu to Bai Bingbing for 100 million yuan, and said that he was not a billionaire and was still paying the mortgage in Taipei City. News highlights the original lead singer Fei and guitarist Ah Chin of the FIR. Fei Orchestra have left the group one after another, and the leader Chen Jianing and the members of Wu Du Yu Xiao Yu and Xiao Wu recently announced that they will go to Malaysia to sing. Although he can sing classic songs such as Lydia and Our Love, because only Chen Jianing is the original member of the group on the poster, and the other members are new faces, fans questioned and bitterly this is the Jianing Orchestra, right? Chen Jianing emphasized that this is a cross-border cooperation in music, not the third generation of FIR. News highlights after the 61-year-old artist Sun Xing and his ex-wife Lin Meijin got back together, they broke up again because of Sun Xing's relationship with a third party, Yanzi. Lin Meijin issued a divorce statement on the 7th, ending her marriage of more than 20 years, and accusing her of love and pain in the past. Sun Xing and Yanzi were girlfriends before they got back together, and it was rumored that Yanzi was a wealthy businesswoman, and Sun Xing clarified that she was a fashion designer. According to reports, because Sun Xing's contact with Xiao San was not broken, Lin Meijin finally decided to end the marriage again. News highlights Xia Jingting shared his mental journey from drug abuse to rehabilitated person at the press conference for the premiere of 9 Like a Family at the Great Love Theatre. He said that although he went astray in the past due to drugs and firearms, his mother never gave up on him, which made him finally decide to turn over a new leaf. He recalls that during his second drug rehabilitation, his mother's gray hair and old dog waited for him to come home, which made him wake up to the pain he had caused his family. He also said that he has accepted the past and is determined to create a new future. News highlights Taiwanese singer Guo Tingjun recently slipped and injured herself in the bathroom at home, but fortunately did not cause major injuries. She revealed on Facebook that she supported the ground with her hands when she slipped and screamed in pain, but fortunately, her husband Peng Zheng immediately came to check after hearing it and confirmed that it was only bruises and flesh wounds. Subsequently, Guo Tingjun was infected with a cold virus by her son, and although she was unwell, she still actively administered intravenous drips and anti-inflammatory injections to prepare for today's video work, and optimistically encouraged herself with her husband's song Inevitable Surprise. News highlights Zhang Fei, the 73-year-old big brother of variety shows, was once known for his accurate stock market vision, but in the face of the recent collapse of Taiwan stocks, the outside world is worried that his assets will be damaged. Zhang Fei responded that as early as before the Qingming holiday, he sold all the stocks in his hand and made a profit of about 500 million, although there was a small loss, but there was no big loss. He revealed that as early as when Trump announced the Sino-US trade war, he intuitively predicted the trend of the stock market and got out in time, and said that he was very calm about the loss, emphasizing think clearly in advance and be ruthless. News highlights Wang Sijia's husband's occupation was recently exposed, and it was rumored that he was not a rich man, but had served as a driver and special assistant for a certain boss, with a monthly salary of about 70,000 yuan. According to reports, Wang Sijia only learned her husband's true occupation after marriage. Her husband once created an image of a wealthy businessman on social media, making the outside world mistakenly think that he was a big boss. After Wang Sijia learned the truth, she still fully supported her husband, covered daily expenses and paid for the family's rent. Regarding this matter, Wang Sijia's agent responded, saying that these are rumors and saying that these personal privacy should not be subject to public concern. News highlights artist Bai Zhenru recently confirmed that she and her husband ended their 4-year marriage, and finally divorced after 2 mediations. She said that she couldn't bear it in her marriage and chose to end this vicious circle of relationship, and emphasized that she would no longer insist on an unhappy marriage, and called on others to live for themselves and have the ability to earn money independently, so as to get out of the predicament. She also mentioned that insisting on an unhappy marriage for the sake of her children will only hurt her children, and she may want her parents to divorce when she grows up. News highlights Aye Oriatsubo, the former anchor of Ryukyu Broadcasting in Okinawa, Japan, is suspected of mixing drugs into a colleague's drink, causing the other party to be in an acute poisoning coma. After the incident came to light, Ryukyu Broadcasting issued an apology statement saying that it would fully cooperate with the investigation. Oriatsubo carried out this act near a convenience store in January last year, and the victim was sent to the hospital before calling the police. The police arrested Oriatsubo on March 10, and the case shocked the Japanese community, and Ryukyu Broadcasting stressed that it would help the police clarify the truth. News highlights mainland actress Xiao Yanni, formerly known as Ma Ji, 28 years old, entered the showbiz at the age of 16 and participated in many popular works. In 2021, due to cardiac arrest, he was diagnosed with ischemic hypoxic encephalopathy, fell into a vegetative state and was in a coma for 3 months, and woke up in early 2022 and actively rehabilitated. She will disclose her illness in 2023, revealing that her mother's meticulous care helped her wake up, and said that she would work hard to recover and look forward to returning to the entertainment industry. News highlights the Haifeng Brigade of the Navy's anti-ship missile unit originated from the Army's 111 Howitzer experimental team, which was initially responsible for the development and training of the Seung-Feng missile. In 1970, the unit conducted missile tests and public displays, and was later transferred to the Navy and developed under the Haifeng Group. The unit mainly uses Chinese-made Seung-Feng series missiles and US-made Harpoon missiles, and plans to further enhance its combat capability and increase the rate of ship strikes. With the formation of mobile squadrons, the Navy's anti-ship strike capability will be significantly enhanced. News highlights after the United States imposed 104% tariffs on China, China announced on the 9th that it would impose 84% tariffs on American goods from the 10th, triggering a strong reaction from Trump, who immediately raised the U.S. tariffs on China to 125% and suspended new tariffs on other countries for 90 days. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent pointed out that the tariff rate will be restored to 10% in all countries except China. Trump stressed that this measure is to push China to change its exploitation of the global market. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs policy has affected the world, and the Taiwan government has established ties with the U.S. side. He said Taiwan will work to address trade barriers, increase bilateral investment, and promote a Taiwan-US trade deal with the goal of reducing tariffs. In addition, Taiwan will strengthen cooperation in the fields of energy, agriculture, industry, and arms sales, and actively respond to global uncertainties, maintain stability across the Taiwan Strait, and promote regional security. News highlights Zheng Zongzhi, a 23-year-old Taiwanese player in the United States, made his major league debut today, becoming the 18th Taiwanese player and the 6th fielder in history. The Buccaneers welcomed the team in Chinese traditional and showed Yung Chung Chol's jersey before the game, and fans appreciated the team's support in traditional Chinese. In addition, Zheng Zongzhi's jersey has a debut patch on the left side of the logo, and the Taiwan flag is placed next to the belt buckle to show patriotic feelings. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of a 90-day moratorium on reciprocal tariffs on a number of countries stems from talks with senior officials, taking into account the turmoil in the U.S. bond market and the impact of the global economy, hoping to avoid unnecessary conflict and maintain room for negotiation. News highlights a mother in Texas, USA, was chased and slashed by 3 teenage daughters with knives and hit with bricks because of turning off Wi-Fi, and even her grandmother was injured. Police arrested 3 people on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, which shocked the community and reflected that online dependence can lead to extreme behavior. News highlights Japanese actress Ryoko Hirose was suspected of being insane after a car accident on the 7th, and was arrested for attacking a nurse in the hospital. Although the preliminary drug test was negative, the strange behavior caused great concern from the outside world. News highlights: Trump announced the postponement of tariffs in 75 countries, US stocks and Taiwan stocks rose sharply. Taiwan stocks soared more than 1,000 points at the open, and TSMC and Honhai rose to the limit. Some netizens just stopped losing yesterday and missed the rebound and lamented that they were played with by Trump and the stock market, which triggered a discussion among stockholders. News highlights: Wang Sijia's husband was revealed to be a driver. She didn't know before marriage, and she still chose to tolerate and shoulder the family after marriage. Although it is rumored that he created a wealthy image, Wang Sijia protects her husband and supports her family. To this, the agent responded, "It is inconvenient for the artist to ask about his private affairs." News highlights: Kuomintang legislator Su Kioxin mistakenly mistook the permanent civilian official of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a communist spy, used the wrong photo to question, and later found that the person with the same name and surname had made the wrong person, and bowed to the person concerned and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to apologize, and stressed that the mistake was not malicious, and hoped that the Security Department would find out the truth. News highlights: Aye Oriatsubo, a former female anchor of Ryukyu Broadcasting in Okinawa, Japan, was suspected of poisoning a drink, causing a female colleague to be poisoned and sent to the hospital in a coma, and was arrested by the police for assault. The TV station issued a statement apologizing, emphasizing that it had fired the anchor involved and fully cooperated with the investigation. News highlights: singer Hiyuki revealed that he suffers from voice phobia, misophonia, and is extremely sensitive to the sound of biting apples and biting lotus mist, and he gets goosebumps just by imagining it. She admits that few people understand this problem, and hopes that sharing will make more people pay attention to this rare condition. News highlights: it will be a year since the death of the boar, Chen Junfu, and his former friend Kagu recently revealed in an interview that he will remember him with the best video of his life, and admitted that he had dreamed of the boar several times this year, but the content of the dream was vague. Referring to past misunderstandings and blockades, Kagu said that he did not want to talk about the details, and only hoped that the outside world would not misunderstand that he was consuming wild boar. He admits that he still misses the boar, and although he has little contact with other old friends such as Yuxiang and Banana, he always cherishes the friendship he once had. News highlights: the disappearance of the crescent on the nail is not unreasonably worrying, unless the crescent is not visible on all fingers and toes, which may be related to anemia or kidney problems. If the crescent becomes red or enlarged, it may be related to rheumatoid arthritis, heart failure, and other diseases. Straight black streaks on the nail are usually harmless, but multiple irregularities are needed to check for melanoma. Lateral streaks may be associated with conditions such as chemotherapy or kidney failure, and if they are depressed, they may be a sign of systemic disease. News highlights: US President Donald Trump announced that reciprocal tariffs on more than 75 countries would be suspended for 90 days and replaced with 10% tariffs because they are willing to negotiate with the United States. However, tariffs on China have been raised to 125% with immediate effect. Trump said that China lacks respect for global markets and stressed the hope that China will recognize that exploitation is unsustainable and must change. News highlights: the recall movement in Taiwan continues to heat up, and the recall cases of 35 Pan-Blue legislators have entered the second level of joint signatures. Suds Haifen, the former magistrate of Yunlin County, handed over 3,500 copies of the joint signature and was named Superman of the joint signature. On the 9th, Su Jiarui, a member of the Dawan City Council of the Democratic Progressive Party, also handed over 1,000 signatures in support of the recall of Chu Ruohua, a member of the Blue Committee. He said that the battle has just begun, called on everyone to be brave and not admit defeat, and stressed that justice will be brought back. News highlights: US President Donald Trump announced a 90-day suspension of reciprocal tariffs and only 125% tariffs on China, leading to a resurgence in market confidence. After the Taiwan Index futures rose 1,718 points in overnight trading, and after the stock market stabilized, some netizens posted a comparison chart of the price limit of the Taiwan Index futures on Facebook, and wrote "leave a suspension," but was ridiculed by netizens. Mathematics is taught by physical education teachers. And how is a 10% point change different? Netizens questioned its mathematical understanding, referring to the difference between the down limit and the limit in points. News highlights today, 10th, during the day, the rain in the north and central is obvious, and there may be heavy rain or thunderstorms, especially in the north. Other areas, as well as Penghu and Kinmen, also had brief periods of showers or thunderstorms. After nightfall, the weather is far away and the weather is slightly stable, but the second wave of the surface will attack on Saturday, 12th, afternoon, and the whole Taiwan will welcome thunderstorms again. In terms of temperature, the temperature is about 25 to 28 degrees Celsius in the north and central temperatures, and 29 to 32 degrees Celsius in the south. Please bring rain gear when you go out and pay attention to driving safety. News highlights: Aye Oriatsuba, a former female anchor in Okinawa, Japan, is suspected of giving a drink containing sleep medication to a colleague to drink, causing the other party to fall into a coma due to acute drug poisoning and be sent to the hospital. The case occurred in January last year and was arrested by the police on March 10 this year. Subo, who left his job in January, issued an apology statement after the case, saying that it would cooperate with the investigation and apologize for the distress caused by the incident. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day suspension of reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries and a 10% tariff, but he had asked TSMC to impose 100% heavy tariffs if it did not set up factories in the United States. Kuomintang legislator Xia Longjia pointed out that Liking needs to take concrete actions, not just say love Taiwan, and stressed that if TSMC further sets up factories in the United States, it will cause hollowing out Taiwan. He believes that in the future, not only TSMC, but also more Taiwan companies may follow, and called on Liking to discuss Taiwan's interests with the United States. News highlights: against the backdrop of military exercises in Chinese mainland and the threat of a U.S. tariff war, Yu Yinglong, director of Taiwan's Public Opinion Foundation, called on President Lai Ching-te to intervene to stop the ongoing mass recall campaign. He pointed out that Taiwan is facing the dual challenges of the two major powers of China and the United States, and the economic and security situation is grim, but it has seen that society has been further divided in internal struggles and the antagonism between the government and the opposition has intensified. Yao Yinglong stressed that only by uniting as one can Taiwan overcome the crisis, and called on the government to attach importance to national unity and social harmony, so that Taiwan can show resilience in the face of difficulties. News highlights: a woman in her 20s suffered an ischemic stroke when she was sucked on her neck, commonly known as strawberry planting, during intimidation with her boyfriend, presenting with symptoms of general paralysis and hemiplegia. Doctors point out that sucking on the neck can trigger blood clots, which can lead to stroke. While growing strawberries usually doesn't have serious consequences, straining near the arteries should be avoided to reduce the risk. News highlights: rapper gambler, Yang Xixiang, is accused of possessing and selling zombie cartridges containing etomidate. New Taipei City Police found multiple cans of toxic e-liquid at his residence and arrested him and his girlfriend on the spot. Gambler is suspected of deleting mobile phone conversation records, suspected of extermination, and has been taken into custody. The case was investigated in accordance with the regulations on the prevention and control of drug hazards. News highlights: U.S. stocks rose sharply after U.S. President Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on new tariffs, with the four major indexes hitting record highs, with the Dow up nearly 3,000 points, the S&P 500 up 9.52%, the NA index up 12.16%, and the Feiban index up 18.73%. Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, etc. soared, and their market capitalization soared by more than $1.5 trillion. Taiwan stocks also rebounded strongly, with the Taiwan index rising by 864.71 points in the concentrated market, exceeding the daily limit of 200 individual stocks, and TSMC ADR rose 12.29%. The analysis pointed out that the financing balance has decreased sharply, and the time for Taiwan stocks to rebound is approaching. News highlights: Lai Shipao, a legislator of the Finance Committee, asked whether Taiwan stocks have entered a bear market and was concerned about the risk of investors using insurance policies and credit payments due to stock market fluctuations. Peng Shenlong, chairman of the Financial Supervisory Commission, responded that although Taiwan stocks have fallen sharply in the past 3 days, according to the theoretical definition, Taiwan stocks have not yet reached a bear market, and stressed that he will pay attention to the risk of decapitation among people aged 40 to 69, provide assistance and improve the way of collateral payment. He pointed out that there is no systemic risk at the moment, and the market reaction is already being resolved. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of an increase in tariffs on China to 125% and a suspension of tariffs on other countries sent U.S. stocks sharply higher, and Taiwan stocks rebounded dramatically. The U.S. FI index recorded the largest one-day gain, and TSMC ADR rose 12.3%. Taiwan stocks rose sharply at the open today, with the index once exceeding 19,000 points, and the market value increased by 5.33 trillion yuan in a short day. While investors breathe a sigh of relief from the trade policy turnaround, analysts caution that tariff policy remains uncertain and investors need to remain cautious. News highlights: the U.S. China tariffs escalated, and Trump raised tariffs on China to 125% in an attempt to force Xi Jinping back to the negotiating table, but China insisted on not budging. Trump believes that China will have difficulty finding new markets outside the United States, so he has the initiative. Despite China's announcement to raise tariffs on U.S. imports to 84%, Xi has shown no signs of backing down. The trade standoff between the two countries is nearing its limit, and if it continues to escalate, it will cause great damage to the economies of both countries. China could use U.S. treasuries as a counter-weapon to shock global financial markets. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced a temporary reduction in reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries to 10% for 90 days, emphasizing that only 125% tariffs will be imposed on China during this period. Foreign Minister Lin Jialong said that Taiwan is ready and will use the 90 days to discuss bilateral economic and trade cooperation between Taiwan and the United States in depth. He pointed out that Taiwan will actively invest and procure, especially in semiconductors, energy, and agricultural and industrial products, and reduce the U.S. trade deficit with Taiwan through these measures. Lin Jialong stressed that Taiwan will not only respond to Trump's tariff policy, but will also actively establish a Taiwan-US economic and trade alliance. News highlights Lai Shipao, a legislator of the Finance Committee, asked whether Taiwan stocks have entered a bear market, and was concerned about young investors using insurance policies and credit to pay for them, fearing that a further decline in the stock market may lead to systemic risks. Peng Junlong, chairman of the Financial Supervisory Commission, responded that Taiwan stocks have fallen significantly in the past 3 days, but according to the theoretical definition, they have not yet reached a bear market and have stabilized. He pointed out that most of the decapitations are concentrated in the 40 to 69-year-old group, and stressed that the FSC will pay attention to and provide assistance to improve the way collateral is paid and ensure that there is no systemic risk in the market. News highlights Trump's reciprocal tariffs, which were supposed to strengthen the United States, have instead contributed to China's rise and expand its influence around the world. U.S. protectionism and unilateralism have led many countries to turn to China, facilitating the expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative and the non-U.S. free trade area. China's role in global affairs is gradually rising, and the realization of the Made in China 2025 plan has been accelerated, forming a situation of rising in the East and falling in the West, which is a result that Trump did not foresee. News highlights Zheng Zongzhi, a Taiwanese player in the United States, made his debut in the major leagues in the early morning of the 10th and became Taiwan's 18th major league player. During the match, he affixed the Taiwan flag on his belt and completed the first assassination with excellent defense. However, in terms of batting, he hit a strong rolling ball under the 6th inning, which was supposed to be a hit, but it was recorded as a mistake and was reversed in the first steal, and he missed the first game and the first thief in the major leagues. In the end, the team won 2-1, and Zheng Zongzhi's wonderful performance is still worth looking forward to. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on reciprocal tariffs, bringing tariffs to 10% in 75 countries except China. This news brought Ke Jianming's Facebook, the head of the DPP caucus, into the spotlight again. Ke Jianming estimated on April 1 that it may be about 10%, which attracted ridicule from many netizens at the time. However, after Trump's policy announcement, netizens left messages on his Facebook, calling him a 10% prophet, praising his accurate predictions, and shouting that prophets are always lonely. News highlights Trump announced a 90-day suspension of reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries, during which only 10% tariffs will be imposed, and stressed that the tariff policy remains correct. The news triggered a surge in U.S. stocks, with the Dow Jones soaring 2,962.86 points, or 7.87%, and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index rising 18.7%. However, tariffs on China were still raised to 125%, and Trump said the United States would double down if China retaliated. He believed that China would find a way to negotiate with the United States and warned that China's predatory behavior was unsustainable. News highlights the Central Meteorological Administration forecasts that the front will pass in the first half of the 10th, and the probability of rainfall will increase, especially in the north of the central part of the country, and there may be short-term heavy rainfall and localized heavy rain, as well as severe weather such as lightning strikes and strong gusts. In the afternoon, the rain eased with scattered rain in the mountains and the east, and turned cloudy in other areas. Daytime temperatures drop slightly, with high temperatures of 25 to 28 degrees north of the center and 29 to 32 degrees in the south. There are brief showers or thunderstorms on the outlying islands, with 23 to 27 degrees in Penghu, 19 to 26 degrees in Kinmen, and 18 to 23 degrees in Matsu. News highlights Internet celebrity Chao Ji, Huang Bacheo, beat Toys on the street on January 20, 2024 because he was dissatisfied with the live broadcaster Toys, Lu Wujian, criticizing the taste of the food in his restaurant, and threatened the other party to kill you. Toys was admitted to the hospital with a head laceration and multiple contusions all over his body. The court convicted Chao Ji and the employee surnamed Lin of the crime of assault. Chao Ji was sentenced to 6 months in prison, Lin Nan was sentenced to 2 months in prison, and Yi Ke was fined. Chao Ji later said that Toys claimed 100 million yuan, so there was no room for reconciliation. News highlights U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on tariffs on 75 countries, which caused U.S. stocks to soar by nearly 3,000 points, and the Taiwan Composite Index also rose in overnight trading. Eating soil aluminum rope, BA reversal, which is regarded as an anti-indicator, posted on the 9th that it may stop loss, but after the U.S. stock market soared, she posted again to express her speechlessness, and netizens left messages to thank her and ridicule her stop-loss remarks. News highlights President Lai Ching-te wrote to Bloomberg to explain Taiwan's strategy for deepening Taiwan-US economic and trade relations and respond to Trump's reciprocal tariff policy. He proposed 4 major measures. 1. The goal is to reduce Taiwan's tariffs to zero and restart trade negotiations. 2. Expand purchases from the United States and reduce trade imbalances. 3. Increase Taiwan's investment in the United States and create more jobs. 4. Resolve non-tariff trade barriers and respond to export controls on high-tech products. Li King stressed that these actions will be transformed into economic momentum and promote regional security and stability. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 90-day moratorium on reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries, but the benchmark rate remains at 10%. He said that the decision stemmed from the sharp volatility in the U.S. Treasury market, especially the surge in the yield of the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond, which affected people's mortgages and financing costs, and put pressure on the economy. Still, Trump raised the 104% tariff on China to 125% and blamed China for retaliatory measures. Trump stressed that although China wants to reach an agreement with the U.S. side, it is not yet known how to proceed. News highlights: this morning, an accident occurred at the intersection of Did Road and Yangfu West Street in Daowen District, where a worker was swept away by heavy water while working on a sewer culvert. Under the influence of the front, heavy rain began to fall in Daowen last night, with a cumulative rainfall of 85 millimeters. At 10 a.m., the workers were unfortunately washed away, and the firefighters immediately came to the rescue, dispatching 22 firefighters and 9 vehicles to the scene, but due to the turbulent water, the workers have not been successfully found, and the rescue work is still ongoing. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced the suspension of reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries including Taiwan for 90 days, prompting Taiwan stocks to rise sharply today, breaking through the 10,009 mark and setting the largest one-day intraday gain in history. TSMC, Mediatek, Honhai, and other weighted stocks rose to the limit, driving the market up. Experts point out that companies that buy back Treasury stocks are worth paying attention to, but warn that U.S. Treasury yields are rising, market risks have not disappeared, and investors should remain vigilant. News highlights: on March 14, 2023, a man, pseudonym Lao Wang, in Taipei found that Xia Hua, pseudonym, an intern doctor who had taken sleeping pills, was unconscious on the MRT, so he pretended to accompany her to the doctor and took her to the Baitu Hot Spring Hotel to violate her. Afterwards, he left a message on Xia Hua's Facebook to harass Xia Hua and asked Xia Hua to call the police. The judge sentenced Wang to 3 years and 4 months in prison for the crime of sexual intercourse, which can be appealed. The judge found that Xia Hua entered the hotel in a comatose state, and the evidence showed that she did not consent to sexual intercourse, and Wang's argument was not accepted. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to streamline and improve efficiency in foreign arms sales, directing the Department of Defense and the Secretary of State to draw up a list of priority arms sales partners and ensure that priority partners have access to the equipment they need. The order also calls for a review of the Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR, consideration of opening up arms exports to some friendly countries, and the establishment of a unified electronic tracking platform to improve the efficiency of coordination among government departments. In addition, the move is seen as part of the U.S. strategy to counter China's military expansion, and the outside world is concerned about whether Taiwan is among them. News highlights: according to the latest online poll, 56.3% of netizens support that Labor Day should be a unified holiday across the country, while 34.3% believe that only workers should be allowed to have a holiday, and 9.4% of netizens said they have no opinion. Proponents argue that all workers with labor insurance should take a holiday, while opponents emphasize that Labor Day is about labor. The head of personnel of the executive branch, Su Chunrong, said that he personally did not oppose the issue and said that the Legislative Yuan would discuss the matter. News highlights: the administration of U.S. President Trump announced that tariffs of up to 104% on Chinese goods will be imposed from the 9th, and Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian responded strongly, criticizing the U.S. for indiscriminate tariffs and maximum pressure, and saying that China will retaliate. Subsequently, Trump posted on social platforms, announcing that the tariffs would be raised to 125%. China immediately retaliated by raising tariffs on the United States to 84%. The tariffs cover a number of products such as steel, electric vehicles, and solar energy, and there are concerns that the two countries will enter a cycle of tariff retaliation, which will have an impact on the global economy. News highlights: a 40-year-old man surnamed Huang was sent to the emergency room by 2 men who claimed to be friends, and he had no breathing and heartbeat. Huang Nan had no external injuries, but the cause of death is still pending investigation by prosecutors. After being taken to the hospital, the 2 men left quickly without waiting for medical attention. The police have accessed the CCTV and locked the relevant personnel and vehicle information, and actively traced the people involved. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced on his personal social media platform that he would suspend reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries for 90 days, but the tariffs on China have been raised again to 125%. Trump accused the mainland of a lack of respect for global markets and stressed that the mainland's blackmail will no longer be accepted. This is Trump's 3rd tariff increase on China, from 34% to 50%, then to 104%, and now again to 125%. In addition, Trump has also decided to temporarily ease tariffs on other countries, and the reciprocal tariffs will be adjusted to 10% within 90 days. News highlights: a few days ago, the strong earthquake in Myanmar caused the collapse of the audit office building in Bangkok, Thailand, and dozens of people went missing. May, a Burmese woman, walked 4 days to Thailand to find her husband and son, only to find that her husband had started a family in Thailand and had been in a relationship with another woman for more than 10 years. May was devastated and did not learn of her husband's betrayal, while her Thai wife said she had supported her husband and children for years. Despite the mixed feelings, Thai officials said the husband's compensation would go to his daughter, while the son's compensation would go to May. News highlights: the United States announced a 90-day moratorium on reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries, imposing only 10% of the base tariff. Foreign Minister Lin Jialong said that Taiwan is ready and will use this time to conduct in-depth negotiations to promote Taiwan's economic and trade cooperation. He stressed that Taiwan will not only respond to Trump's tariff policy, but also hope to strengthen the Taiwanese team, use the American market, technology, capital, and talent, and let Taiwan's industry occupy an advantageous position in the global supply chain restructuring. In addition, Taiwan has accumulated $100 billion in investment in the United States and has narrowed its trade deficit through procurement. News highlights: this morning, 10th, Dawon City issued a special report on heavy rain and listed Pingzhen District as a second-level flooding warning area. Heavy rainfall caused water to accumulate in the South Huanan underpass, blocking and diverting traffic in both directions, and a passenger car broke down in the water. Water accumulated in many sections of the road in Pingzhen District, causing locomotives to lodging. In addition, an accident occurred at the construction site at the intersection of Yongfu West Street and Did Road in Bade District, and a worker was suspected to have been swept away by the turbulent water, and the fire brigade was searching downstream. News highlights: the U.S. government has withdrawn plans to restrict NVIDIA's H20 AI chip exports to China after NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang attended Trump's Mar-a-Lago dinner in Florida. Originally planned to tighten regulations, the government changed its stance after NVIDIA pledged to invest in new AI data centers in the United States. Demand for H20 chips surged in China, despite a request from the U.S. Congress to tighten the restrictions, and the Trump administration eventually decided to suspend the export restrictions. News highlights: affected by the heavy rainfall in the Dawon area, the east and west main lines between Nilai and Fugong Station of the Taiwan Railway have been unable to run since 9:52 due to water accumulation exceeding the track surface, and the east and west lines have been temporarily suspended. The Taiwan Railway has set up a Level 1 emergency response team and activated the road connection service to assist passengers to switch to other means of transportation. At present, there is also water accumulation in the section from Nilai to Puxin, causing a major delay in 18 trains. Taiwan Railway is closely monitoring the water situation and arranging follow-up treatment. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump imposed 32% reciprocal tariffs on Taiwan, and President Lai Ching-te sent Zhang Lijun to the United States for negotiations. Deputy Secretary General of the Presidential Office, Chong Tun-han, criticized the opposition parties for deleting the budget, but was refuted by KMT legislator Chen Yuzhen, pointing out that the relevant proposals had been withdrawn. Zhang Dianhan then emphasized the deletion attempt, and media person Huang Yangming bitterly criticized Zhang Dianhan for spreading rumors on the show, and accused him of not admitting his mistakes and asked to step down. News highlights: a 69-year-old man in Denmark developed fever, vomiting, confusion and other symptoms within 3 hours after drinking spoiled coconut water, and died of brain lesions within 26 hours. The test found that the fungus Suchizos arthropodium grew in the coconut, producing highly toxic 3-nitropropionic acid, which is highly damaging to the brain. Experts remind that coconuts should be kept refrigerated and never left at room temperature for a long time to prevent spoilage. News highlights: U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 10% base tariff on imports and additional tariffs on 60 trading partners, and then decided on the 9th to suspend the tax hike on countries that have not retaliated for 90 days, imposing only a 10% reciprocal tariff. The sharp policy U-turn illustrates the political pressure Trump is under, especially after the sharp volatility in the U.S. stock and bond markets. The Treasury Department's warning of a bond market crash became a key factor in Trump's adjustment. Trump stressed that this is not a concession, but a way to negotiate. News highlights: artist Bai Zhenru confirmed that she had ended her marriage with her husband for more than 4 years, revealing that her husband had proposed divorce 4 times, and finally decided to divorce due to pressure and constant internal friction. Sharing her experience of marriage, she suggested that people who still insist on an unhappy marriage should think about the reasons, and stressed that if you endure for the sake of your children or money, you may make yourself more miserable. He called on everyone to live for themselves, and emphasized that it is difficult to reunite after breaking the mirror, and the past relationship cannot return to the original point.